Hey guys, it's Mr. Wheeler, and I'm going to share some examples of fossils. So this first example of a fossil, this is a mammoth bone flake, and this is about 1 million years old. This is dug in Wyoming. It's likely a Columbian mammoth, which is similar to a woolly mammoth. A lot of people, when they look at bone fragments or flakes, they say, well, how do you know it's a bone? That looks like a rock. Well, I've put a cross-section of a bone next to the pictures, and you could see that there's these canals and web structures within the bone, and these are sure signs that the fossil is biological in origin. And so if you look at this picture, you can see that this is the inside of the bone flake, and it matches this region of the cross section, and this would be the outside of the bone flake. As another example, I've provided a different bone fragment. This is likely a dinosaur bone fragment. You could see, again, there's canals and web structures suggesting that it's biological in origin. The next fossil that I have for you is a piece of petrified wood. This is from the Middle Eocene, about 45 million years ago. This is from the Shirley Basin in Wyoming, where there's a petrified forest. This is not a piece of wood. I know it looks like a piece of wood. If you look closely, the texture, it's very wood-like, but it actually is a rock material. You can see that this sample has actually been stitched together, glued together in some pieces to make the sample more complete. But it is completely petrified. All of the organic material has been replaced with minerals. And so this region was home to a petrified, or it was 45 million years ago, it was home to a forest where scientists have looked at the samples of other trees in that area, and they have determined that because some of the petrified samples, since they're 60 to 65 inches in diameter and up to 90 feet long, they've determined that the height of these trees was somewhere between 420 and 450 feet. If you know anything about trees, that's very tall, much taller than trees today. The tallest tree that's still living is 380 feet, and that's a redwood tree. And so this is a pretty cool sample of petrified wood. Most petrified wood samples that are in collections are about this size or smaller, but you obviously can have very large samples of petrified wood, but they're very heavy, of course, because they're rocks. This is an example of fossilized fish. These are from the Green River Formation in Wyoming, same period, Eocene, and it's 50 million years ago. At the top right, I show you the side profile of the fossil, and you can see that it has those layers that you can kind of see it's cracked. And so to find these fossils, what you do is you just remove layer after layer after layer until you find the fossils, and then what you do is you coat it with this glue-like stuff that makes it so that the fossil doesn't flake away. This example has a lot of flaking around the fossil, the fish head, but you can see a lot of the material is still preserved. This is one of my bigger fossil samples or fish samples. And then down here at the bottom right, this is an example where we have two. These are better preserved than the other one, and it's cool because they're both in the same area, the same specimen, two small fish. This is an example of a fossilized shark tooth. This is from the Paleocene, 50 million years ago. I'm not sure where this one is dug, but it's likely to be the northeast United States based on the species of fish. Shark. And what I like about this sample is that it has those cusplets on either side of the tooth attached to the root. Not a lot of samples have those, or since it's a delicate structure, they're often broken away and they're not preserved over time. But this example has both the cusplets still there. And I also like the sample because it's still in the rock, it's still in the matrix. So whoever dug this one did a good job of preserving it. This is another tooth. This is a tooth from a Mosasaur. They lived during the Cretaceous period. This is from 90 million years ago. This one is likely dug in Morocco, but one thing that you should note about this sample is that the tooth is going to be circular or more cylindrical, and that allowed these teeth to be stronger than the previous shark tooth. And with these teeth, these dinosaurs could punch through organisms that had shells and have no problem eating them. And so that's from a Mosasaur. This next example is a fossil fern. This is actually dug in Pennsylvania. And the period of time that it comes from is the Pennsylvanian epoch. Thus, I mean, that's where it got its namesake, is because a lot of samples from that era were found in Pennsylvania. And so Pennsylvanian epoch is part of the Carboniferous period, roughly 305 million years ago. You can see very similarly to the fish fossils that this is a layered fossil. If you take more layers away, you're likely to find more of these fossils. This next example, this is one of the more common examples of fossils globally. This is an Ammonite fossil from the Devonian period, roughly 360 million years ago. A lot of the fossils from this time, they're going to be found in the Atlas Mountains of Morocco, where they have phosphate mines. And so ammonites, they're an extinct group of marine animals. They range from 1 inch to 9 inches in diameter. What's interesting about these fossils is that when they were collected during the medieval times, they thought that they were petrified snakes. So if you can kind of imagine a snake curled up, and then they'd collect these fossils, and they'd call them snake rocks or snake stones, and they believed that they had healing properties. I have two examples here. The one on the right, this is one that's been cut down the middle, and then it's been polished, which is very common for cheaper common fossils, to show the crystal structure inside the fossil as the organic material is replaced with the minerals. And so these are both from Morocco. And then this is an Orthoceras, also from the Atlas Mountains, Morocco, from the Devonian 370 million years ago. This, if you look closely at one of these, this is the shell of an Orthoceras, and then this is the end of the shell, and then the soft body of the squid-like creature would be coming out of the end of the shell. And so large quantities of these fossils were found in Western Europe and Africa in the 18th century. So this is a very popular fossil. It's probably one of the most famous fossils worldwide. And it represents an ancestor of our modern day squid. These are Brachiopod molds. This sample is a sample that I found as a child, and I've always held on to it because these are very good impressions of the brachiopods. Brachiopods they're bivalve organisms similar to clams or mussels, or clams and mussels are brachiopods rather. But brachiopods is just a very diverse group. And this is the most common fossil found in northwest Pennsylvania. You could find molds are the most common, but you could also find casts, which would fit right inside those molds as well. This is from the Upper Devonian 375 million years ago. This is the two Trilobite fossils. The one at the bottom right is from the Wheeler Formation, Utah. So I think that's kind of cool that the fossil formation is named after same last name as me. That is a small Trilobite. And then the bigger one, that is also from Morocco, like a bunch of my other fossils. These are roughly 507 million years old. It's believed that trilobites were the first invertebrate forms of life on Earth, and I think they're very cool. They're very detailed. And then this last slide is just a bunch of, none of these are super good samples, so I kind of just stuck them all in one picture. But these three middle samples, this is on the left here, this is a crinoid stem, so it's kind of the stem of a flowering plant. This is horn coral, and then this last one, this is one of my oldest fossils. This is fossilized algae from the Precambrian, roughly 550 million years old. All three of these middle samples, these were found in Millard County, Utah. At the bottom left, we have a fossil of an urchin, and that comes from Morocco. This is a cluster of Turritella. These are the types of shells. If you ever go to a freshwater beach like Presque Isle, Erie, you'll see these Turritella are still in existence, and they're little spiral shells. So this is a really old fossil of spiral shells. This one was found in Sweetwater County, Wyoming. And then at my top here, I have a gastropod fossil. So gastropods are, again, still in existence. It's just a univalve, like pretty much a snail shell. That one is an old sample, probably from the Miocene. And then this last one up here, this is some fossilized plant material. It's stuck in soft red clay, and then the lighter portions are the remains of the plants, and they've been permineralized to jasper, so it's kind of cool little fossil. And that's it. So hopefully you found some of this interesting. If you have your own fossils, share them. I want to see them.